An elderly woman discovers 4 boys in her yard and is moved to tears when she realizes their actions. Laws and rules are the foundation that keeps our society running smoothly. At 75, Jerry Suttle lived the retired life peacefully on her 2-acre slice of Texas. Years earlier, she fought hard to own this land. It had become her sanctuary. But one day, her quiet life took a turn in an unexpected direction. On her couch, she sat amidst confusion and worry. Jerry could not fathom why anyone was telling her she needed to go to court. She was given no notice and no fines had been imposed on her. Now imprisonment was mentioned. He went into daydreaming and Jerry heard noise outside of the house. The sound of banging in her yard made her turn to the window. Her heart was beating, and as she saw 4 boys marching up to her, she shivered and quickly felt paralyzed with questions if to attempt to run away. It had started over a little-known city ordinance in her small Texas town. Grass on any property wasn't allowed to be more than 18 inches tall, or the property owner would be fined for it. Jerry knew nothing about such a law. She had never received a citation, yet she was shocked when the police came to her door to inform her she was now in violation of the ordinance and could be sent to jail. The police chief of the town, Danny Crum, said Jerry missed a court hearing on the lawn. But Jerry was insistent she never got any notice. Living alone, no family close by, no husband to lean on since he died years ago, and with few resources, Jerry felt cornered. She was too old to mow the lawn herself. She couldn't afford to hire anyone to do it. As she sat in her living room, Jerry wondered how she was going to get herself out of this situation. Jail sounded like a real possibility. Then she heard the banging again. Hesitantly, she looked outside to see the 4 boys standing there. She was expecting the worst because she didn't know what their intentions were, but what she found brought her to tears. Put yourself in Jerry's shoes, scared, alone, not sure where to turn. It was a moment of despair, but Jerry was about to learn that even in the darkest times, kindness can shine through. Jerry approached her window cautiously, her heart pounding as she tried to get a better look. She saw 4 boys emerge from the edge of her property. Who were they? And why were they on her land? A wave of unease washed over her. Were they troublemakers targeting someone they thought was an easy victim? That someone might break into her home and confront her was unsettling. Home invasions are considered a legitimate fear for the elderly, who are often targeted as easy prey. Resolute to protect herself, Jerry readied her weapon to ward off the boys if need be. As they drew nearer, she noticed something peculiar about them. They were not threatening adults, just children. The oldest of them was no older than 15. Yet Jerry felt uneasy. What were they up to? As she watched, their clothes seemed to be smeared with dirt and mud. They seemed to look around her property for something. Her puzzlement did not get better when they started laughing, playing with each other. Had they come to play a prank on her, or worse? Jerry considered calling the police, particularly when one of the boys drew a tool from a bag they carried. She continued to watch in wonder as 2 of the boys remained stationed at the yard while the others disappeared for a time. Then, to her amazement, the 2 remaining boys pulled out garden tools, weed whacker, shears, and other equipment. Shortly thereafter, the others returned, one of them pushing a lawnmower. Jerry hardly knew what to do with herself. The boys then proceeded to mow her lawn, taking great care in cutting overgrown grass and weeding it out. She started to tear up as she realized now what they were doing. These boys, absolute strangers, had come out to help her during the most difficult times. That was her home for 59 years, but she had never experienced anything of that kind. Especially when there's no hope left, the boys just turn up out of nowhere offering their kind services expecting nothing in return. It would later be revealed that the boys were brothers and that their heroic deed had no ulterior motive attached to it whatsoever. When asked why they performed the unselfish act, they simply said they wanted to do something meaningful during their summer. "We didn't have anything else to do, so we thought we'd help someone out," one of the brothers explained. Blaine Reynolds added, "We hadn't met her before, but she's 75 years old. She needed help, and that's the least we could do." Another brother joined in. "We didn't want her to struggle or pay a lot of money for something we could do for free." What they didn't know was that this kind act did more than beautify Jerry's yard. It saved her from possible jail time and gave her hope that compassion does truly thrive in the unlikeliest of places. With the sun high above them, Jerry's neighbors noticed just how diligently the boys were working in her yard. Curious, one neighbor hastened to bring cold drinks over to the boys. Just about the time Jerry was going to thank them, 5 more people headed towards her property. And sure enough, these men also had gardening tools with them. The neighbors had banded together to help Jerry and had devised a plan to take care of her yard as a team. They divided into 2 groups. One side of the property was to work, and the opposite side was to handle it. The neighbors joined the 4 boys without wasting any time, each bringing their lawnmowers and tools to help pitch in. Undaunted by sweltering 90-degree heat, the community was working side by side, determined to make Jerry's life just a little easier. Jerry could hardly believe her eyes as she watched from her window in amazement at her neighbors and the boys working their magic on her overgrown yard. She was overwhelmed by the number of people that had shown up in support of her. "I'm very seldom without words, but this is one time I am. Better mark it down in history." In just 2 hours, the work was done, what would have been impossible for Jerry to do. She was speechless, all the kindness and generosity of her community. The boys would later find out that there was a warrant for Jerry's arrest because of her overgrown lawn, and were shocked. "It was like 90 degrees out here. We spent the whole day sweating, and it was hard pushing the lawnmower through that tall grass," said one of the boys. "It made me feel bad," another said. "She's a 75-year-old woman. How was she supposed to handle this on her own?" The boys were compassionate and mature at a tender age in a manner that left many people speechless. As one neighbor said, "For them to be so young and to want to help someone in need is just absolutely wonderful." In an instant, Jerry knew she was not alone. The genuine effort by her community had not only rescued her from the jaws of impending legal trouble, but had also reminded her of the magic of love and support. With the grass cut and her yard put back in its original condition, Jerry was a relieved woman, but her ordeal was not over yet. She was informed that she needed to go down to the courthouse to sign documents indicating she had never received the original notice to appear in court. Jerry hoped this would mean the issue would be resolved and the charges against her would be dismissed. However, the court had other plans. "It's just heartbreaking," Jerry said. "To think people I didn't even know spent 2 hours in the hot sun doing what we thought the city wanted, and then to find out it wasn't enough." Still, their efforts did not stop the city from pressing charges against Jerry and requiring her to go before the court. Yet the neighbors persisted. They took to Facebook and other social media sites and shared Jerry's story with the community, how 4 boys of tender years and a community came together to help Jerry when she was in dire need. The public outcry had an impact. Because the boys were considerate in their actions and because of community support, the warrant against Jerry was rescinded and didn't have to go to court. This story reminds, yet again, what can be achieved when people come together to help someone in need. Small acts of kindness can change someone's day, helping with the groceries or giving someone a kind word. Take a moment today to brighten someone's life. The added benefit will be yours in making a difference that brings joy to another human being.